Hi, Julie.
Hello, Tina. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm good. Thank you. Happy International Women's Day.
Yes, you too. Yeah,
Thank you.
it's a day recognizing women, and I guess, it's not only a celebration, but also a check-in where I guess we still are. I hate the word fighting, but it's like fighting for equal rights and fighting for more recognition, maybe for more respect, I think at times too, right? Because
Absolutely. Yes.
it's not just about the laws or what's written in regulations or what's given, but yeah, respect
Yes. Couldn't we use
support.
more respect and
And I think
support and
support,
nurturing? Yeah.
support. Yeah, because it's not always being a woman, is it? Even nowadays.
No. Well, you and
Yeah.
I were talking about this yesterday. When I hear the term women or women's International Day, things like that to celebrate women, my brain automatically goes to the divine feminine energy.
Mm,
And so I think that men can be included in this divine feminine energy. I know they are, because we go in and out of the divine feminine and masculine throughout our lives, even though we're gender specific or not. We have
yeah.
the energies of the genders, right?
Yeah, we do.
So and my mom is here. She remembered to join the show. Speaking of
Yeah.
wonderful women, so yeah,
Yeah,
that's
I
what we
agree.
got to do today is celebrate the women who have paved the way for us, and it was not
Yes,
easy as we were
that's
looking
right.
yesterday. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. It's amazing, and it's like, even something as simple as we were looking at like the right to vote for women, and it's not.
Hmm.
I mean, so like the anniversary. So for a lot of countries, it was anywhere from 100 to 105 years ago, and like that might seem a lot, but it's not when you compare to the like if we go to the history
Oh,
of mankind, it's really not that long ago, right?
not at all. I mean, it's
And
one generation ago, literally.
yeah, so that would have been
So
like
that's not
our
a long time at
grandmothers.
all.
Yeah, so that would have been like us. I don't know about people younger than us, but like that would be our grandmas. Like you're right, their generation
Yes.
that fought and established, the women's right to vote. Yeah, and then
Yeah.
and then they
And I
raised
feel
our
like
mums
when we
in that,
say yes, absolutely. They
right?
raised them to have an independent soul and a voice and all of the wonderful things that our grandmothers have done. And when we say fought for their right to vote and things like that, it really at the time probably didn't seem like much of a battle for them. It was more of oppression, like you don't have a voice to
Yeah,
complain about it, right?
yeah, yeah, yeah.
And
Yeah,
that's
and I think we're
interesting.
still,
Yeah.
yeah, and it's like I still feel like that's, a big part of our struggle too as women is not always feeling like we're heard or understood or recognized, right? Just for being us, because there's so many standards for women, right? Like, and
Yeah.
one of the big things has to do with the beauty, right? So it's like if we're not put together or don't look a
Yes.
certain way, we're not recognized. And that really irritates me
Me
nowadays,
too.
right? Mm-hmm.
Well, you and I are from the generation that, and there's my Aunt Joy. Hello, Aunt Joy.
Yeah,
We are
yes.
from the
Hi, Joy.
generation of Barbie. Yes,
Yes.
we were introduced to Barbie. And this was a stereotype that was introduced to us at a very young age into our psyches, right?
Yeah.
Of being the perfect woman, And so we grew up with that. And that's why we had modeling that was models that were 90 pounds and malnourished and for a stereotype that could never happen, so
Yeah.
it was a bar that was set that no woman could ever reach, and
Yeah.
especially a silent woman because Barbie had no voice, right? She was just to look at and
Yeah.
to manipulate. So yeah, so
Yeah.
hello Eleanor, how are you? Look at all
Yeah.
these beautiful ladies in here. We have such a
Yeah.
great
Yeah.
female community, right? And male
Yeah, we
men
do.
too. Like I said, it's just an energy.
Yeah, that's great. Yeah. Yeah, and it's funny with
Yeah.
the Barbie thing because I mean, I use that term. So when
So,
I see, and it's like, it is kind of rude, I'll admit it, but it's like when I see a woman like really put together. So put together like she used cosmetic surgery. But it's where how do I want to put it? It's almost like where I guess more the focus is on the physical appearance than anything else. And it's like it's apparent because it's like you can tell she had surgery or whatever, but it's like I tend to call those women Barbies.
yeah,
And
me too.
that's
I know
and
it's
I have
hard.
to stop myself, like for me to admit that that's really hard for me because it's like, well, I'm not supporting my fellow woman,
Exactly
group,
right.
right?
Yes,
By
right.
thinking that way. And it's like, I guess, when I peel back the layers on that, I almost want to say too, well, why is that? Why do I refer to those women as Barbies? And it goes deeper than that. It's because, they seem to be vilified, or they only seem to be recognized because of their appearance. And that's what I think that's the issue of it, is what gets me, right? So
Yes,
it's like
absolutely.
their life experience doesn't matter, or their knowledge of certain things in life doesn't matter, or they're like,
Yeah,
what I
what they
mean? It's
think.
like what they
Yeah,
think or how they feel, what they,
yeah.
maybe their wisdom. And it seems to be, no, it's about
Yes.
just their appearance, right? How well put together they are, that they live in the multi-million-dollar home, the fancy car.
Hmm.
Yeah. And
Oh,
it's not,
so much goes into that. Absolutely goes into that. Mom is bringing up I don't know if you remember a model Twiggy in the
I
60s and
do. Yeah.
70s. You remember her?
Yeah. Yeah, I do.
Yeah. And she was the perfect example of that because she had everything seemingly. And I've seen interviews and stuff with her, and she was had a horrible time with an eating disorder. You know what I mean? But she had to keep that. She had to keep that. She would her eating disorder was she would get way too skinny. I was reading about that, and they would have to really put IVs in her and stuff. But image, right? That's exactly what you're talking about. Image
Yeah,
only.
the
There's
image.
no
Yeah.
substance there. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. And I
Very
mean, and
harmful.
that's, and we, a lot of us do that, right? Like a lot of times, we go by the image of something, whether we, yeah, and it's too
Yeah.
bad, isn't it?
It
It's sad.
is because when you're changing yourself to get a certain goal accomplished, you're going to always be changing. Who are you then? Because you're
Yeah.
going to always be changing, especially if you're
Yeah.
listening to what the outside world is telling you. And that really brings us to social media too, with that
Mm,
influence. There's paid influencers out there because
yeah.
we are all consumers. We are all consumers. So they put these influencers out there. The Kardashians is a great example of that. They're influencers out there. That's not their life. Reality TV is not real, and that's a
Yeah.
big lesson for us to learn.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
But we don't look at it that way, or
So
a lot of people don't, right?
no, no, we
Yeah.
don't.
And
Absolutely
it's,
not.
yeah, and it's like, okay, I'm not sure how old all these ladies are in the chat room. I mean, you don't, and you don't have to say, but it's like after a certain age, a woman doesn't count either. And I'm,
Right.
that irritates me too, right? So like after a certain age,
Absolutely.
she doesn't matter as much, and it's like, is it because she doesn't have that youth or that vitality or the looks, right? That's, it's like, is that what it's all based on? And it's,
Right.
you
And I
know,
took it as I felt that not mattering thing after I had to have a hysterectomy. I had a really horrible
mm,
time trying to have children after Rosie was born. So I felt that shift because I couldn't produce, basically. You know what I mean? I wasn't viable. I didn't feel like a viable person on this earth anymore because I couldn't bring life. I felt, it wasn't true, but that's how I felt. I felt really
yeah,
non-viable.
yeah, yeah,
But you come into your 50s, and that's not important anyway. That stage of my life is over and done. So I'm so much appreciating everything about being a woman, and really coming into what it means to be a woman and what we're representing as women. So judging other women for plastic surgery and things like that just falls right into that influencing type mentality, because it's still just women bashing, right?
Yeah,
I mean,
that's
really,
right.
that's what it is. And that's
Yeah,
been trained into us, to bash other women if they don't fit our mold or what we think a woman should look like or be like, or,
yeah,
and the stereotypes, right?
yeah, yeah. And it's like, I think, part of it has to do with like, okay, so those women that are doing that, it's like, okay, I want to be like, that's great for you. Is that what you wanted to do? Is that made help make you feel better? Like
Yeah.
whatever reasons, like it's really none of my business, but it's like I want to in some way come across as being supportive or feel support, even though I might not know them or it's not my business. But what is hard is like, it seems like it puts pressure. There's this pressure put on women then, okay, there's this standard to be a certain weight and to not
Right.
have the wrinkles or to look and it's like, you know what, it's exhausting because it's a lot of
Yeah.
work, right? It can be a lot of work. It's expensive.
It is.
It
Yes.
can be painful, right?
Yes. In
A lot
more
of the
ways than
procedures are
one.
painful.
Absolutely.
And it's like, I think for me, what this platform of International Women's Day should be about is like, okay, and I feel this is important, like, like singling out the women. It's like, okay, we need to like be each other cheerleaders more. And it's like,
Yes.
and it's not, and don't always base it on the appearance. So it's like, okay, you know, um, based on, more than that, right? And but just be there for each other
Oh,
and
yeah.
like try not to, be catty about things and try not to backstab or, because it's like, I think part of us too is brought up to be competitive with each other, right? As women,
Yeah.
we're brought up to be competitive and like, line up and, compare like, okay, well, she has this or I don't. And I just want that to stop. Like, I hope
Right.
like this is the time. I know it's not going to happen overnight, but I'm hoping this is a time where, okay, there's more to women
Yeah.
than meets the eye or our looks, right? And yeah. Did that make sense? Like,
Yes.
did that come out
Right.
okay? Mm,
Absolutely, it does. Yes, absolutely. Because competitiveness is really our enemy here. And women are extremely competitive with other women. And that's not their fault either. That's the
yeah,
Barbie mentality, because they have to have a certain bra size or a certain, especially when you're young, it's really imposed on you to even, even growing up, you and I were talking about just, our moms, maybe our grandmothers more too, were afraid for us because they knew they didn't have this avenue to express themselves. So they encouraged us to to marry somebody with money, marry somebody with safety, security. They didn't want us to suffer. And
right.
growing up, for my grandma especially, if you were an old maid, you were going to suffer. It wasn't going to be easy for you to not
Yeah,
have a partner. And so we've come so far in that, in the partnerships. I think
yeah,
marriages, I've been married 35 years, and Michael and I are partners, true partners. No one takes the lead in our house. We're two flawed people who refuse to give up on each other, I heard someone say once.
yeah,
And that's the truth. It's the
yeah,
truth. It's just, right. So women have come really far, and Michael is very aware of the women's fight and inequality, and he's always been an advocate for rights and equality. So I do love that about him. But
mhm,
but here's my mom saying she's 79 years old and she's comfortable with her frumpy self. But look how she just put herself down right there. Don't do that, Mom. You are
yeah,
beautiful. You are
exactly.
beautiful. And
Yeah,
you've taught me everything about, I mean, she was out there with the feminist rights, and really paving the way for me. My mom
right.
was always, for that, and women women can do stuff, and you don't have to
Right.
get married. That was never my mom's wish for me. It was for me to be the best person I can be.
Yeah.
And so
Yeah.
that's the way to raise our daughters, right? Be the best
Yeah.
person you can be. And comparison is the thief of joy. You can't
Yeah.
compare yourself. You're so unique and so important and so vital in this world.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
we need, those voices to be heard. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And I want to say
So
probably
yeah,
every,
so we've come far.
yeah, I was going to say like probably like every generation of a like every generation of a woman, that doesn't sound right. So let's say like the women
I
from
get
every
what you're saying.
generation, the women from every generation probably wanted to pass something down to their daughter that would empower them
Yeah.
or like enlighten them without trying to
Yes.
be too scary, but to be smart. Like this is how it is, right? Because they come from that experience, and it's
Right.
like they couldn't make it better maybe in that area for them, but it's like, okay, we want this for you, and this is why. So like I think of my
Yeah.
mom, like a couple of things that stood out, and it was shocking to me when I heard it, was like she said, keep my maiden name. She said, don't, she says, if I were ever to get married, she says, don't take his name. She says, you keep your name. And like that was shocking because I grew up in a time like you did where, I mean, women's lib
Yeah.
was just getting going, but it was still like the woman still basically was expected to stay
Mm-hmm.
home and raise a family and take the husband's name and serve the husband, right? And my mom was like, not for that at all. Like she,
Yeah.
and
I neither. No.
and the other thing too that was she shared with me was to um, always keep my own money, to have my own money. So she says, even if I was like, let's say,
Right.
in a relationship and I wasn't working or bringing my own, like making my own money, if I to take a portion and sock it away in an account like that nobody knows. So it's interesting how she
Yeah.
shared, those things with me.
Yeah. I love that.
That
Yeah.
I did. I mean, I did those things. So, and it's
Absolutely. My
something
mother
that,
taught the same
yeah,
values. Yes.
yeah, yeah.
She
So,
did. She wanted me to be independent and not. I know there's a lot of see again with women and putting down, because I wanted to say gold diggers was in my
oh
head,
yeah,
right? That's what we've heard of these women who have all this stuff done so that they can marry a rich man or be the side mistress of some rich man and not have to work.
yeah,
That was nowhere in my mom's realm of thinking. Yeah, no,
yeah,
no. I've
yeah. And that's
worked my whole life. I've worked. Yeah.
yeah, and that's not fair because that's that's how they were brought up. They were brought up to be a housewife at that time, right? I mean, I don't know how it is now, right? With raising
Yes.
girls. But
Right.
what I come across, like,
Right.
the younger generations, it's like, wow, they really rock in some areas of life where they're really confident about certain things about them in their life. And I'm like, good job. Like I want to say like that's thanks to all
Yeah.
these women before them, paving the way or setting the tone.
Right.
It's like, yeah, yeah. And it's like, okay, what can
Yes.
be achieved now
Yes.
after,
Love that.
right? Yeah, yeah, exactly.
That's right. Hello. Is it Ruchi from the Philippines? Look at that. That's
That's
wonderful.
nice. Yeah, yeah. That's an
Yeah.
interesting name.
Yeah.
Yeah. So,
It
so
is
I'm
an
just gonna
interesting
pause.
name.
Yeah. So I'm just gonna pause. So this is like our potpourri show. It's we couldn't
Yes.
like really decide on one topic or we weren't sure. So like there's different things happening this week and we thought, okay, we'll just make it a potpourri. We'll share and discuss things and
Yeah.
see if anything intuitive comes through as far as like guidance in what's next or what the energies say. Yeah, so
Yeah.
today is women's International Women's Day,
Yes.
and which is really important. And also, I want to say it's this week is the anniversary of the COVID world shutdown. Like maybe not when COVID
Yes.
started, but where many countries around the world closed the borders and closed businesses and like yeah, shut down a lot of things because
Oh
of
yeah.
the COVID 19 illness,
The world quarantine.
virus,
Yeah.
the world quarantine. Yeah, yeah. So
Yeah.
it was funny to find a date because the dates are all over the
I
place.
know.
Yeah,
Right?
I was
But it
gonna
was
say
this week.
March. Yeah, it was this week. I was gonna say March 13th because I'm pretty sure it had to do with Friday the 13th, and there was, yeah,
Oh
an
yeah.
eclipse and all that stuff, so people were joking about that,
That's
like how
right.
those energies played in. Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
I don't know how everyone's doing like a year since this. I want to say probably came
Yeah.
into the forefront. No matter what, it came more into the forefront. It was like it captured and was like the main focus of our lives and took over. I want to say it took over our lives, right?
Oh yeah. It did. It invaded.
Yeah.
Yes.
And I call COVID the gift that keeps on giving. And I know a lot of people might not like that. They don't see it that way. Because I know
Love it.
it's not, it wasn't a pleasant experience. Whoever had the experience with it's not, hasn't been pleasant. Yeah. So, but it is, it's like,
Yeah.
if we sit down and look at like, okay, what are the gifts from this instead of focusing on the negative, that can help us not only with coping, but also maybe to see, okay, what do we do next? Or how can we create something better in our world? Because I feel that's one of the big things COVID is teaching us is like
Yeah.
how to improve our world, right?
Oh, absolutely. Well, you were
Mm-hmm.
talking about all of the women before us that battled and paved the way for us. And it's like COVID was like this. I feel like we were so out of control with
Yeah.
the division, right? The world division was just getting worse and worse and scarier and unsettling. And then this world quarantine hit and the world just got quiet, real
Yeah.
quiet for a couple weeks. And that's when I felt like this new wave of divine feminine energy kind of pour into us
Um,
to nurture us and help us and ease us and kind of the passing of the baton, but we couldn't do that with all the chaos.
mhm.
But
Yeah.
now, coming out 1 year later, we have a woman vice president of the United States of America, and she's
Mhm.
fabulous, Kamala Harris. And look at that, and here it is, International Women's Day, and we have
Yeah.
this.
Yeah.
So that's a passing of a baton for sure. Now you take over. Now it's our turn to take over and just bring it further
Yeah.
now that we've come out of some of the chaos, right?
Yeah. Yeah. And I think, I want to say that's the platform for this decade is about the
Mm,
rise of the feminine energy, feminine power, more feminine influence. Because it's just, I feel like she's been quiet or shut down, right?
yes,
And
she's been
it's, and
oppressed,
it's,
the energy
and I,
herself. Yes.
yeah, and it's funny. Well, we weren't doing the show last March, but it's looking back, it's like, okay, COVID-19, the week of the shutdown is the same week as Women's International Day, because that never changes, right? And it's
Right.
like, when you bring it up that way, it's like, how ironic. So it's like, I
True.
do feel like women and feminine energy is the answer for this next decade. And it's like, okay, are we going to be heard now? Are we going to, are you going to put your ego aside and, give us a shot at things?
Right.
You
Or are we
know?
just going to push it away and step right in?
Yeah. Yeah. And it doesn't mean like
Yeah.
we have all the answers, but it's like, we do have some insights or maybe like we see things in a different way that can be valuable, that can make a difference, that can, I want to say, improve things, but it's like we're not there. We're not totally there yet, right? Yeah.
No, but energy does take some time to, you've
Hmm.
got all this residuals. It's kind of like the shadow of a planet when we go through retrogrades and stuff. The
Yeah.
bulk of it is over, but we still have that shadow area. And I feel like that's what this with the war mentality, and the divine masculine really has had a voice for a long time, very long time. So
Yeah.
it's going to take a little while for that merging first. First we got to be like the Chariot tarot card, and we have to merge these opposing energies, and that's we can propel so fast once we do that. Once we come together as humans, not even just women, but humans. Once humans come together and we let the divine feminine energy take over, not women.
Yeah.
I think that's the thing that men really start to get fearful of, is when we say women power, women are going to take over, women. It's the energy of the understanding and the nurturing and the support and
Yeah.
the compassion, because
Yeah.
compassion and humanity have to come back, or we're in big
Yeah.
trouble here, because it's getting too disconnected, too detached from this life,
Yeah.
because it hurts.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's about caring and love,
Yes,
right? Yeah.
absolutely.
And I'm not saying there's not a place for, the masculine energy, but it's like you said, it's just so out of balance. It's just been more about the masculine energy and the men being in power and pushing everything down.
Yes,
And it's like, okay, it's time for the women to rise up or to be recognized or,
right.
access more, right? And,
Yes,
and I
absolutely.
feel like part of it is like, the topic of the show is seeing the beauty in, and it's like I feel with feminine, more with the feminine energy. I'm not gonna just narrow it down just to females, because it can happen with men too, but feminine energy I feel is connected to beauty, in the sense of like,
Yes.
okay, you're being real, or you're showing a personality trait, and that can be beautiful, and or it can be like, you know um they see the beauty in the children, right? Like it's just the way that they look at things, and it's like the beauty goes deeper than the surface, right? And that's what I feel feminine energy is about. And it's like, okay, this is what we need to bring more of into our lives and our society, is like, okay, whether it's like, oh, it's beautiful to laugh, so it's like, okay, let's bring more of
Yeah.
that into our lives, right? So that's where
Yeah.
I hope we're
I love
going.
that.
Yeah.
we
Yeah.
are. We are.
Yeah.
Absolutely. It's been too much of the divine masculine. We do need that protective energy. We do. It's
Yeah.
very important to have the divine masculine, right? But
Yeah.
we do have to have the balance. We can't just be the hunter gatherers and the survivor mentality, last man standing. Women, energy, the feminine energy is more about coming together in community, and it takes a village type mentality. They understand that it takes, I was reading these stories about women, tribal women across the world. I forget where it was, but they will sit around, the lake, and they're doing their harvestings, or they're in the gardens, and they're passing the baby for breastfeeding, because one of the women got distracted with a goat or something. It was very interesting to read this article, but they're a community. They're raising these children together. They're not just saying, well, that's your kid, it's your problem, or
Right.
I'd slap that kid, that's around now. but
Yeah.
but um but it takes a community to raise healthy, vital human beings that have compassion. That's compassion. To be breastfeed a baby that's not yours, that's compassion, for human
Right.
life. So I
Right.
would love to see that community feel come back, less tribal and more community. I'd like to see,
Yeah.
if that makes sense.
Yeah. Yeah. No. And I mean, like, even like looking back, okay, so that's something from a specific culture. So even like if I were to look back at
Mhm.
when I was growing up, it was like I remember in my time, um, when we went to visit my mom's side, well, either side of the family, but more my mom's side of the family, we spent more time with that side. It was like all the women would like, it's like they took turns, like, okay, we'll take Tina off your hands, so you can be you, or you can like have a break.
Yeah.
I don't know, like, I mean, I was a young kid, and for me, it was just exciting. Oh, I'm going to be spending a week at my cousin's because she's like fun, and we're going to do blah blah whatever, right?
Yeah.
Um, it wasn't, and it felt love. Like it felt like
Yeah.
I wasn't abandoned, but I was like nurtured, and it was a different woman, right? And it was welcoming and loving, and it's like that doesn't seem to happen
Yeah.
so much nowadays, does it? And I don't know if I know part of it might
It
be is
does
because
not.
like
And I
a
know
lot more
exactly what you're
people,
saying because,
a lot more families are spread out, right? People move around,
yeah,
they don't stick
yes,
to where they grew up, right? Around family. Also, too, there's
yes.
this, sense of like, I don't know, not so much about privacy, but like, we don't seem to do that anymore. Like,
Well, I
you know what I
think
mean?
because of the judging, there was a lot of judging. Yeah, I think I'm getting glitchy on the camera, but yeah, it was a lot of judging with that too. You know what I mean? Women didn't work for one, not the majority of them. Their husbands worked
Yeah,
and they stayed home and raised the kids. And there were a lot of women that raised me. A lot of women in my neighborhood in California growing up. There were a lot of strong women. My Aunt Joy, I could go to her house and I would be just like, to this day, when I talk to my Aunt Joy, it's like talking to my mom. I
right.
tell her all the same things that I tell my mom. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah,
she's just my mom. And all my aunts were like this, and it was just more like that, right? It was just more
yeah,
of a community. Yeah. Yeah. To
yeah,
raise the
yeah,
kids for sure.
yeah, yeah. Yeah, and I guess too, like maybe back then they weren't so concerned about like make sure my kid like there was no list. It's like here, yeah, to have Tina. Like there was no list of like you could do or couldn't do or
No,
say or couldn't say. Like now,
that's
maybe
right.
nowadays there's so many. My kid can't have this or do that, right? And it's like, oh my
Right.
gosh,
Don't give them peanut
that's
butter.
part of that's part of. I can see if it's like going to be life threatening, but part of the experience is to get that
Right.
essence or to learn from different personalities and different people, right? Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. You get the variety there. And then all the lawsuits started happening and people started making money and it was just changed. But if we could get
Mm.
back to that kind of feel to it where it wasn't so competitive, they weren't competitive with each other then,
No.
you
Yeah.
know, just the way it
No.
was.
That's right. That's right.
So yeah, it would
Yeah.
be wonderful. I'm all for it.
Yeah. Well,
Yes.
and we grew up, you and I, in the hippie time, would you say? The hippie
Mm-hmm.
bell
Yeah,
bottoms
oh,
and
yeah.
like,
Yes.
right, the 70s is like the 70s we grew up. So it's like the free love and all that. So I feel like we were lucky that way. Like we were on the
Very.
receiving end of all that lovey-dovey energy and that peace that they were trying to promote and bring into society. And it's like, okay, we lucked out on that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Hmm. Yeah. So good for
Absolutely. You're
us.
right
Good
about
for our.
that.
Oh, I know what I wanted to bring up. We were talking about this too on
Yes.
our call. Um, Now I don't know how many women here are in their, let's say, what, late 40s going into their 50s. Feel like they're not represented in life, whether that's part of, because
Yes.
I don't have cable, so I don't know what's out there on TV. And I'm not on the up and up on all the celebrity news or happenings or what's trending or I'm not, okay? But I mean, I
Yeah.
feel when I do look, I wonder, like, is there anyone that represents you, me, like our generation? Because it feels like we're silent.
No.
Like there's no one checking in to see like how do we feel? What do we know?
Yeah.
What's our experience?
No.
What are our
There's
thoughts?
not.
It doesn't seem like there's anyone out there that's doing that. And that's sad and irritating to me too. I'm kind of mad about that. What
Yeah.
do you Yeah?
Me too. I agree with you. There hasn't been for a very, very long time. Oh, I'm sorry. Put
That's
that on
okay.
there. And then
See,
Kamala Harris.
Finn
Kamala
agrees.
Harris
Yeah.
is in her 50s, right?
Yeah.
Somebody's
They're like,
obviously at the
yeah,
door.
right. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
That's okay. I can,
But
we can hear
Kamala
you.
Harris, I thought,
Yeah.
good,
Oh,
good.
right.
Because I was saying that last night that I haven't had any representative, even when Hillary Clinton was running for president in the United States, they tore her apart. I mean, God forbid you try to step ahead as a woman as well, too. They
I
will try
know.
everything, you know.
Yeah.
Right? So it's scary to step out onto that platform and say, let me be your hero. Let me be who you aspire to be, because my God, I don't have that kind of, I just couldn't do it. I would crumble. And under that kind of scrutiny, you know, I would crumble. So
Mm.
Kamala Harris she came to me last night when we were talking about that. Now, I
Oh,
know she's
okay.
in the US and she hasn't really had a chance with COVID and all of these major world things happening, but I have hope with her. I do. I have
Yeah.
faith with her.
Yeah.
Otherwise, no. As soon as somebody steps out to represent me, they are pushed down so fast, I forgot who they even were, right? I mean, they don't
Mm.
like that. You know, the world doesn't really like this
Yeah. Well, there's a fixation
mentality.
on the youth. When it comes to women, it's more a fixation. Again, it
Right.
goes about their youth and vitality, their appearance.
Mm-hmm.
And
That's right.
and it's like, I want to see women of all ages celebrated. And I want to see diverse beauty because I feel like beauty comes in all shapes
Me
and
too.
forms and ages, right? And it's like we need to start celebrating that more, especially in the public eye. Um,
Yeah.
and I think even just as women, like I'm going to challenge all the women listening right now. Okay, this coming week, I don't care if you know the woman or not, but when you're out and about and you see a woman, it's like compliment her on something. I don't know if you're brave enough, but it's like, and it shouldn't matter the
Oh,
age
I
or not
do.
because they
Yeah.
will love that. Because women, yeah, like after it's like we
Yeah.
feel we don't matter unless this or unless that, right? And it's like when things go wrong,
Right.
it's always our fault, right? It's like our
Yeah.
fault because we dress
Right.
this
Yeah.
way or our hair look like this or um
Yeah.
we can be a bitch, we can be a slut, but a man does all those things and nowhere near the scrutiny that they
Powerful.
receive.
No.
Yeah, like it's like,
Yeah.
yeah, they're when the man gets older, it's like, oh, he's still good looking, he's distinguished and right.
Oh,
So
yeah.
it's like those are things that we need to start changing. And I know
Absolutely.
I know there are
Yes.
women who are doing that, but it's like I think we all have to, more of us have to get on board and start showing and
Yeah.
expressing, yeah, and not having to
Oh, yes.
apologize for it all
'Cause-
the time, right?
yes. Yes.
Yeah, yeah,
Right. For being a strong woman. Right.
yeah,
Otherwise, you're just a bitch, you know?
yeah,
That's just so, it's so transparent of what's happening there, right? You know, if you step up and you're strong and you have an opinion, and they'll find ways to push you back down. So you've got to stay strong, and that's what our grandmothers went through. That was the fight for equality,
yeah,
you
yeah,
know.
yeah.
And
I've
we've got to
heard
keep
some
that
really,
going.
I've
Yeah.
heard some really mean things, about me and my, things that
Yeah.
I've done or didn't
Yeah.
do or about
Yeah.
me that, at
Me
times
too.
they still get to me. Like, they still,
Yeah.
that recording will, pop up and it's like, well, that affects my esteem. That affects, you know, um,
Yeah.
how much, yeah. And it's like,
Right.
I want that to stop. It's time to heal that. Yeah. There we go.
Yeah. Maybe it's
We've
time
talked
to
a
look
lot.
at the accomplishments. Yeah, yeah. Look more
Mhm.
at accomplishments rather than the failures, you know?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
that's what we've got to start doing. Maybe with COVID too. We have the vaccine, that's a huge accomplishment. You know, we have to look at more of the
Yeah.
accomplishment.
Yeah. 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 And, it's a time where it's like how you want to live your life and how you want to dress or be or do. Like, let's let's support and celebrate that too, right? So if you want to be the rich housewife, that's
Yes.
great. And if you want to be the tomboy who likes to, I don't know, play in the dirt and mud, then good for you too. Like we should just, yeah, there should be no more. We
Right?
have to we have to start breaking down these standards, I guess is where what it's all about, right? Standards
Yes.
and expectations
That's
and
good. Yes.
what we've been fed. And I think that's what we're doing.
Yes.
You know,
Right.
generation to generation's been breaking down these barriers. It hasn't been easy, but we are, right? Yeah. Yeah.
Oh,
So
absolutely. Just having this conversation right now breaks it down.
yeah. You know what comes to
Absolutely.
mind? I don't know if you want to go there. This almost feels like, this is a show about like the water cooler day. Do you remember those days when
Yeah. I do.
Monday at the office and it's like,
Yeah.
people talking about the weekend and whether that was, what they did or the shows that they
Yeah.
watched. Because what comes up,
Yeah.
should I bring this up? I guess the big news right now is Meghan Markle and Prince Harry, the interview with Oprah.
Yeah.
Did
I've been
you
reading a little bit. Yeah.
did you watch it?
I
I don't
didn't
know.
see
Did
it. Did
you?
you see it? No.
No,
No.
because I don't
No.
have cable.
I
So
didn't.
I
But I heard
I
about
would
it.
have to find it.
Yeah.
I guess I would. I'm sure it's going to be streamed somewhere, right? I'm sure it's going to be
I'm sure it
available that
will. I got
way.
to watch it.
But I'm curious because I'm
Yeah. I wonder
interested
if
to
anyone on
hear
here's
their
watched it.
story.
Yeah.
Yeah. Anyone out there listening who watched that interview on
Yeah.
TV last night? It was a big deal. And
But
it's a big deal in the news. Yeah.
talk about breaking down. They broke down those stereotypes, right, of what a
Yeah.
royal family should be like and who you should be, and yeah, I
Yeah. And
agree.
I can't help but think
Good
about
for them.
Meghan Markle and the role of like women and tying into like the role of,
Yeah,
and I mean, I scrolled like this morning and just scrolled through all the different headlines and different, because there's so many news stories and headlines about it. And one of them that I read
yeah,
was Prince Harry. And I thought like how beautiful and loving it was, like how much support and care he has for his wife.
yeah.
And it was like that's so nice to
Right?
see and hear, like being in the
Yeah,
public eye like that. Like, yeah, let's like for once it's like the guy's giving up his life, for the woman instead of the woman always giving it up for the guy. Like
yeah.
that's very
Right.
encouraging. Yeah, I like
That's
that.
wonderful.
Yeah. So I
Yeah,
think that's
he's part of the
beautiful. Like that.
feminine energy. See?
Yeah, I thought that was a great example. Yeah. And then there was one, I don't know who she is. I don't remember her name. I don't know who she is in the public eye because I never heard of her. But she had her blurb was really mean. I felt and
Yeah,
callous. And I thought, see, that's a good example of a woman bashing another woman for no reason at all.
yeah, yeah.
Like it
Right.
was
Yes.
catty
No reason at
and
all.
yeah, like I'm hoping someone will put this put her in her place in the sense of like calling her out, saying like it was mean and catty,
Yeah.
and question like why she would say such things, because it's like, are you a personal friend? Like, do you? But yeah, it was.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, and are you jealous? Are you jealous of the independence and the standing out on your own? That makes me think
Yeah,
that like maybe that's just something you would like to do, but you don't dare.
yeah, yeah, yeah. It's like, but
The
anyways,
the person who's mocking her. Yeah,
I just thought like, okay, that interview and everything, just it aligns with a lot of the energies related to
yeah,
International Women's Day. That's why I was bringing it up. Yeah.
that's
And then
perfect.
did you want any,
Good example.
yeah. Um, was there anything else you wanted to add? Like we didn't really talk much about COVID. I don't know if we should talk a bit more. I think people are
No.
sick of talking about COVID. Do you think?
Yes,
Yeah.
right.
Oh,
I think this year milestone, we just keep going. We've done so much progress on this vaccine, is all, and it's been really hard. But when you're in the midst of it, we'll be looking back and saying, "Oh, it was just a blip in the radar." Really, you know what I
yeah.
mean? And we'll be all right. So at least we're
Yeah.
over the hump of it. Is all I can
Well,
really
and
think of, right?
Yeah, and we've come so far in a year, really, if you look at it.
Yeah,
From
so
when it,
far.
yeah, so when, I want to say like the consequences or like the shutdown and how far we've come. So it's like, it just feels like now, like people are, I think, ready to break free from it and just like want to forget about COVID. It's like, we've had enough. No more.
Yeah. Right? Yeah, it's been
Yeah.
tough. It's been sucky. Yeah.
Hmm. Yeah. So I'm
So here
okay
we
with that.
are, it's accomplishment. Me too. I'm okay with that too. I think we've done
Yeah.
very, very, very well
Yeah. We have.
considering.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. And
Okay.
think how far
Well,
we'll go as women, We'll check back in a
hmm,
year and we'll see how far we've come. Yeah.
yeah. Yeah. Exactly. All right. And support the women in your life more if you can, right?
Yes. Honor them. Yes,
Hmm.
for sure. Honor
Yeah.
them and respect. Bring respect back. And
Yeah.
yeah, and
Thank a
love.
woman.
Love above all. Yeah. Yes. Thank a
Hmm.
woman today. Yes.
Yeah. Yeah.
I love it. Thank you,
Yeah.
Tina.
Yeah. Thank you, Julie. Thank you, ladies that joined us
Thank you,
today.
ladies.
Yeah.
That's
And thank
right.
you guys
Thank
for all the
you.
guys, I guess, yeah, who support women
Yeah.
and
Yes.
believe in women and cherish women and love women. Like, thank you, because we need more of that too
Yeah.
from you guys.
Well,
Hmm.
behind every great woman, there's a great man. We'll change
Oh,
that
it's the
saying.
other way around. No, it's like behind
I'm
every
changing
gate.
it.
Oh, you're changing it from every great
I'm
man.
changing
Behind
it.
every great man is a woman. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm changing it to behind every great woman, there's a great man.
Yeah. Okay.
I don't know.
Sounds good.
It's Women's
All
Day.
right.
Why can't I?
Yeah, of course. Of course. Yeah. Of course. Yeah. Okay.
All
All
right.
right. So nothing,
Be
I've
kind.
got nothing else to add.
Me
Thanks for
neither. I'm
joining.
good.
Thanks for joining, everyone. And I guess enjoy the day and have a great week and be well.
Yes.
Be well. Okay.
Yes.
Thanks, Julie.
Be well, everyone. Thank you.
Okay.
Bye,
Bye.
everyone.